What if I told you that one simple thing you add to dinner after 65 could help your blood sugar stay calmer through the night, make your blood vessels behave more like younger blood vessels, and quietly work against the kind of belly fat that puts your heart, brain, and metabolism at risk? And no, I'm not talking about a miracle supplement. I'm not talking about a detox drink. I'm not even talking about eating less. I'm talking about something hiding in plain sight, something many people either underuse, use the wrong kind of, or pour on the wrong foods, and then wonder why nothing changes. Because after 65, dinner is no longer just dinner. It becomes a metabolic decision. It can either push your body deeper into inflammation, sugar spikes, and overnight fat storage, or it can help shift your biology in a calmer, more protective direction. And the surprising dinner addition that may help do that is extra virgin olive oil. Now, before anyone says, "Wait a minute, Dr. Leana, how can adding fat help with blood sugar or belly fat?" That question is exactly why this matters, because most people were taught to fear fat, especially as they got older. So they cut the olive oil, skip the healthy fats, and end up eating dinners that look harmless but create a completely different problem. A bowl of pasta with very little protein, crackers and soup, a baked potato with a little butter, toast and fruit. Low-fat meals that sound healthy on paper, but after 65 they can hit the bloodstream fast, push blood sugar high, drive insulin up, and leave the body stuck in storage mode instead of repair mode. And that matters even more in older adults because diabetes and impaired glucose control are especially common after 65. Here's what most people never get told. Your body does not respond only to how much you eat, it responds to the structure of the meal. It responds to how quickly glucose enters the blood, how aggressively insulin has to respond, how much oxidative stress hits the vessel lining, and whether the meal creates satiety or keeps you chasing snacks all evening. That is where extra virgin olive oil becomes biologically interesting. Not because it is magic, because it changes the chemistry of the meal. Extra virgin olive oil contains a high amount of monounsaturated fat, along with natural compounds called polyphenols. Polyphenols are plant chemicals that can help reduce oxidative stress, which is the wear and tear damage created when metabolism becomes too chaotic. And the extra virgin part matters, because that is the less refined form that keeps more of those protective compounds intact. Now let's talk about the first promise in this title. Blood sugar drops overnight. I want to be careful here, because I do not want to oversell this. Extra virgin olive oil does not act like insulin. It does not cure diabetes. It does not guarantee that your glucose number will suddenly plummet by morning, but research does suggest that when extra virgin olive oil is used in place of less healthy fats or added intelligently to a meal structure, it may help reduce the sharp post-meal glucose rise. In one randomized controlled trial, extra virgin olive oil reduced the glycemic response to a high glycemic meal compared with butter or a very low-fat version of the same meal. That means the dinner glucose surge may be less violent, and for many older adults, that calmer evening response is exactly what sets up a better overnight pattern. And this is where it gets more important after 65. As we age, muscle becomes less efficient at pulling glucose out of the blood. We also tend to lose muscle mass, become less insulin sensitive, and accumulate more visceral fat, the deeper abdominal fat wrapped around the organs. That is the dangerous kind. Not just because of how it looks, but because it behaves like an inflammatory organ. It releases chemical signals that keep the body in a low-grade metabolic alarm state. So when dinner repeatedly causes big glucose spikes, you are not just dealing with sugar. You are feeding a loop: more insulin strain, more fat storage, more inflammation, and eventually more metabolic stiffness. So no, olive oil does not burn belly fat overnight in the literal sense. But it may help weaken the conditions that make belly fat easier to gain and harder to lose. That distinction matters. When you build a dinner around fiber, protein, and a healthy fat like extra virgin olive oil, you may reduce how fast the meal hits the bloodstream. You may feel fuller. You may have fewer nighttime cravings. You may need less of the processed starch that tends to keep insulin elevated. And over time, that can support better waist control and metabolic health. Not because the oil is a fat-burning trick, but because it helps create a meal pattern that is less fat-storing in the first place. Mediterranean-style eating patterns built around olive oil have repeatedly been associated with better cardiovascular and metabolic outcomes, including lower risk of major cardiovascular events. But the real reason this matters goes deeper. Let's talk about your arteries. Inside your blood vessels is a thin, delicate lining called the endothelium. Think of it as the control panel for vascular health. This lining helps regulate blood flow, inflammation, clotting, and one of the most important signals of all, nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the message that tells blood vessels to relax and widen. When the endothelium is healthy, arteries stay more flexible, blood moves more smoothly, pressure stays more stable. But when the endothelium is irritated by chronic high blood sugar, inflammation, smoking, high blood pressure, or oxidative stress, that relaxing signal gets weaker. The vessels become more rigid, more reactive, and more vulnerable. Cleveland Clinic notes that endothelial dysfunction is closely tied to cardiovascular disease. Now, here is the part that should get your attention. A study comparing high polyphenol extra virgin olive oil with refined olive oil found that the high polyphenol version improved post-meal endothelial function in adults at risk for type 2 diabetes. In plain English, the right kind of olive oil appeared to help blood vessels function better after eating. Not just cholesterol on a lab report. Real, measurable vessel behavior after a meal. And that is important because many people think heart disease is only about what builds up over decades. But some of the stress begins meal by meal, spike by spike, insult by insult. So when I say arteries relax, I'm using a dramatic phrase to describe something real. Improved endothelial function and better nitric oxide signaling, which may help vessels dilate more appropriately. That is not a trivial benefit. That is one of the hidden reasons Mediterranean-style eating patterns keep showing up in cardiovascular research. The famous PREDIME trial found that a Mediterranean diet supplemented with extra virgin olive oil or nuts lowered major cardiovascular events in people at high risk. That does not prove olive oil alone is the whole story. It does show that when extra virgin olive oil is part of a larger protective pattern, the heart and blood vessels may benefit in a meaningful way. Now, there is an important nuance here, and I want to be honest with you. Olive oil is not automatically protective in every context. If you pour it over a giant plate of refined pasta, garlic bread, sugary dessert, and call that a health intervention, you are missing the point. If you use low-quality refined olive oil and expect the same polyphenol effect, you may not get it. If you add it to an already excessive meal, instead of replacing lower-quality fats or processed foods, you can easily overshoot calories and stall weight loss. So the question is not simply, should I add olive oil? The better question is, what is olive oil replacing and what kind of dinner is it joining? That is the difference between a helpful strategy and a wasted one. Here is the practical version I want you to remember. Aim for about 1 to 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil with dinner. Drizzle it over steamed or roasted vegetables. Add it to lentils, beans, or chickpeas. Use it on salmon, sardines, or grilled chicken. Mix it with lemon juice or vinegar and herbs as a dressing for a large salad, or spoon it over cooked greens with a little garlic. That kind of meal, fiber, protein, color, healthy fat, creates a completely different metabolic response than a beige dinner built around bread, rice, potatoes, crackers, or pasta alone. Official nutrition guidance for heart health consistently favors replacing saturated fats with healthier unsaturated fats, such as those found in olives and olive oil. And let me add one more thing seniors need to hear. Do not make the mistake of buying light olive oil and assuming it is healthier because the word light is on the label. In olive oil, light usually refers to flavor and refining, not superior nutrition. The more refined the oil, the fewer natural compounds remain. If your goal is the broadest biological benefit, extra virgin is the form that gets the attention in the research because of its polyphenol content. Now let's talk expectations. How fast might someone notice something? Some people notice better fullness at night, fewer cravings, or more stable morning appetite fairly quickly when they stop eating high-carb, low-protein dinners and start building meals around vegetables, protein, and extra virgin olive oil. But changes in waistline, blood vessel health, inflammation, and cardiometabolic risk are usually about consistency, not one magical dinner. This is a pattern effect, a repetition effect, a biology over time effect, and frankly, that is how real medicine usually works. Quietly, gradually, mechanistically, not theatrically. A few safety notes matter here. Extra virgin olive oil is a food, and for most people it is safe. But it is calorie dense, so more is not always better. If you are trying to lose weight, measure it. Don't free pour mindlessly. If you have diabetes and take glucose-lowering medication or insulin, do not assume food changes make monitoring unnecessary. Keep checking your numbers, especially if your meal pattern changes significantly. If you have gallbladder issues, digestive sensitivity, pancreatitis history, or you have been told to follow a special diet because of liver or gastrointestinal disease, use common sense and check with your clinician. And remember, food can support healthier biology, but it does not replace treatment for diabetes, heart disease, or high blood pressure. The American Diabetes Association's guidance for older adults emphasizes individualized care, and the National Institute on Aging makes the same point. Older adults benefit from preventive habits, but medical conditions still need proper treatment. So let's pull this all together. After 65, the body becomes less forgiving. Blood sugar tends to rise more easily, muscle becomes less efficient, belly fat becomes more inflammatory, arteries become more vulnerable. And dinner becomes one of the easiest places either to worsen that biology or start calming it down. Adding extra virgin olive oil to the right kind of dinner may help reduce the sharpness of the post-meal glucose rise, support healthier endothelial function so blood vessels can relax more normally, and make your meals more satisfying and metabolically stable, which may support better waist control over time. Not a miracle, not a cure, but a smart, science-backed shift that fits how the body actually works as we age. And that may be the biggest lesson here. Healthy aging is rarely about one dramatic rescue. It is about strategic repetition. It is about choosing the dinner that lowers the internal chaos. It is about helping the body do less emergency reacting and more steady repair. So tonight, take a look at your plate and ask yourself, is this dinner pushing me into a sugar spike and an inflammatory traffic jam? Or is it giving my metabolism a slower, calmer road? If you already use extra virgin olive oil at dinner, tell me how you use it. Do you drizzle it on vegetables, salad, beans, or fish? And have you noticed fewer cravings, better digestion, or steadier numbers the next morning? Put it in the comments. And if you want more science-backed videos on blood sugar, heart health, inflammation, and what really works after 60, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who still thinks all fats are dangerous. I'm Dr. Leana, and I'll see you in the next one.